Okay, so let's get in past that then. Start of the Wombats. We're sort of interested in those very early days. Did you play some really dodgy gigs around Liverpool? And what was the worst one? Paint us a picture of what that was like.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah. What's the swearing scenario on this podcast,
Crack
by the way?
on, mate.
Actively encouraged, I think, is the,
okay, right. Just in case my potty mouth runs riot.
Mate, crack on.
So, well, the first gig we ever did was in a place called Hannah's Bar, and that was when the guy needed a name for the poster, and I was like, I'll just put the Wombats for now, and he just laughed and said, all right, that'll do. And it's so weird how like little moments like that can then lead to you having a giant 7-foot inflatable wombat on stage with you in Australia or something.
Yeah.
But the gig itself, we wore jesters hats. We were just idiots, like we were 19, just getting smashed all the time. Like it was just a fun way to hang out, really. And I'm trying to think of, we did one time our manager got us between us and our manager, we ended up with like 3. He was also studying at the same school, so he didn't really know what he was doing. And we did 3 gigs in Liverpool in a week. And it was like the first gig, there were probably like 45 people and we thought we'd made it. The second gig, there were probably like 15 people. And then the last gig was literally just my flatmates. There were 3 people in the crowd who'd seen us twice already that week.
Oh.
And it was just dire. And we were like, we went on stage and the promoter was just like, I think it was in the Barfly as well in Liverpool. And, we were the first band on, and I think he'd just done it as a favour, but he was just like, oh, go on, lads, just, play a gig. And we were just hungry. We said yes to everything. And we got on stage and we were like, this is just a glorified rehearsal with our mates who have heard us so many times before, but they were like, go on, we'll have a good night out afterwards. So we just, we probably got like 10 cans of beer to do the gig and had such a laugh. Like that was always our motto though. And I think those gigs really stand you in good stead moving forwards, because not every gig's going to be this like amazing event. But if you make, if whatever happens, whether there's a crowd or not, if you just enjoy it and give it 100% regardless, then you can't really have a bad time, because it's all about the music and just having fun with you. We just had such a laugh. The actual worst gig though was up in Stockton on Tees. So our manager, we started like doing gigs outside of Liverpool about probably a year after we got together. And we were like, come on, we want to play other places. So he just booked us into these random bars. And we went to this place, and I think it was called the Q Bar, but I could be getting that wrong. And we pulled up to this place, and it was like neon hand-drawn signs around, calling on offer for 99p, proper, CD.
Nice.
And we played in this stage in the corner, and it was so dire. We'd driven all the way from Liverpool, whoa, so excited. And got there, and there was like, we played at, 11 o'clock at night, and there were literally just like blind drunk people like stumbling around. And this one guy was like, you guys are shit, and just launched a bottle onto the stage, which like exploded everywhere with like beer or whatever the hell was in it all over us whilst we were playing.
Oh my God.
And we were like, oh, fuck. But, that was one gig where we were like, it's funny, but at the same time, this is not, no one's really enjoying this. We're all having a bit of a shit time.
Yeah. In the moment, it was probably really, really traumatic. Now you can look back and laugh at it, but at that time it's probably like, oh, what the fuck are we doing here at the minute?
Yeah, to be honest, I think we got a bit worried that maybe like, these lads were going to actually like chase us out of the room or something, but it was fine in the end. We just laughed about it with them and, told them to throw some more, and then they stopped.
Yeah. It's what it's all about as well. Like a few bands were spoken to, and you say like best and worst gigs and whatever, and it always seems to be, whether it's best or worst, it's about, like, as you said, they're not the journey there, being on there throwing bottles. It's other stuff, like the gig itself doesn't really matter. Like the memories you make before and after is sort of the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just how you do it, how you frame it, and how you experience, you decide to experience it. We had like an awful meal beforehand. I don't think we got paid, and then we drove home in the rain, like got home at like 3-4 in the morning or whatever, just like, oh, right, see you tomorrow.
So was there ever a point after one of those where you thought, do you know what, lads, like, fuck this, like, let's just give up? Or was it always like, this is part of the fun?
Yeah, no, we never thought that. Because, if it had gone on for, because we were at that sort of just like playing random little pubs for at least 2 years, I'd say. And we were studying at the same time. And then we, I suppose we got a couple of little radio plays here and there, but things weren't really kicking off. And like Tord he's from Norway. No, it must have been 3 years, because then he finished uni. I'd already dropped out of my uni the year before, just to focus on the band and get a part-time job. And then we were like, right, go on, we'll give it a year, and and just give it a proper go and see what happens. And after about 6 months, I think there was like about 4 or 5 months, we were like, this isn't quite happening. What's going on? Like, why is it not happening? And then all of a sudden we got like a publishing deal. And then from there, everything started to snowball. But if that had gone on another 6 months, I don't know whether Tord would have stayed in the UK or, so who knows what would have happened. But to be honest, we were just so hungry to play all the time. And we were all three of us were like on an absolute mission to make it, whatever that means. But, just to like be able to do it for a living and like just travel the world and play as many gigs as we could. And I think we were really lucky that all three of us shared that same kind of resolute, just like, no, we are doing this. Because if there'd been someone in the band who wasn't up for those, sleeping on promoters' floors in Bury and, doing all those like random little gigs for no money, then I'm sure lots of bands do kind of hit brick walls with when things like that happen.
I think that's a massive thing with any walk of life as well. I think if you're so down and so headstrong about where you want to be, or where like you're so down to just literally take any opportunity, grab everything by the balls and just be like, look, I'm going to fucking do this, whether anyone likes it or not. I am going to make it to my destination. And I think if people have that mindset, and bands especially, like if you are 100% down, like you make your fate. Like, do you know what I mean? You make that fate. And if you're going to do it, just do it. You got to hold on. And as soon as you start debating, that's when it can get to a position where it might not work because you're not fully invested in that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, for example, moving to New York, a song of ours that ended up doing quite well for us. Like we first, that song, we had it probably for like 18 months and we were playing it at these venues and like we absolutely loved it and felt so excited about it. But it took ages because obviously there wasn't like, you couldn't just upload it on Spotify. Spotify didn't exist and there was no social media really. Like early days MySpace started towards like after the first couple of years. And so like we didn't really, apart from sending demos to A&R people, we didn't really have any weight. We were like, well, we don't know what to do. We're just going to play as many gigs as we can. And, old school, hope that an A&R guy comes to a gig, or we didn't know what we were doing. But that song didn't change before it was on the album. But and even though like we didn't get any like positive feedback or, we did from people who saw us in the gigs and stuff and our friends and family. But in terms of like from the music industry or radio and stuff, like at least a year when it didn't seem like anyone was interested. And I think it's really easy to take that as like a slight on your creativity or on you as a band. But we were always just like, well, we fucking love it. So someone out there might connect in the same way that we are with our music. So, and eventually they did, but you just have to keep plugging it really, I think, and keep trying.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely do. And I think it's a bit of a lesson for everyone really. And like we've said before, and I even find like we get a fair amount of music sent to us. And there's times when like you listen to a song and you're like, it's decent. And then I'll literally listen to it again a couple of days later in a different mood. And I'll be like, this might be the best song ever written, actually. And like, you go back to it and then I'm like, no, actually it might be shit. And like, it's hard. Sometimes it's like a little bit right place, right time. And that tune could be like, you could, an up and coming band now could play Moving to New York and get nowhere. It's possible. And then it's one of your biggest songs of all time and millions of streams. And it's almost a little bit like right place, right time of it.
Yeah. Because then people form memories around it, and then the song or whatever becomes lodged at a certain time in people's lives. So then it means something to people. Whereas, as you say, if it never quite got that moment, then it wouldn't have meant anything. The song itself, obviously, like of course it matters and it has to capture something. But as you say, it is like time and a place. Definitely matters.